Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of the video is Babylon is not ready for the snare it has been dragged into. Right. And I got this video here that I listened to the whole thing. And ultimately, Scott Ritter here and Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis was just going to the fact that, uh, you know, basically America is not ready for this war they have been dragged into, right? But basically, they have no choice. They're saying it's a war that can't be won against Iran because the current type of fighting that takes place in the world with drones and things like that. If you look at Israel, right, and you look at America, they're known for just bombing people, right? Having air superiority, right, and bombing and things like that. Um, and that's all they're used to. But wars are being fought differently now in these last days with drones, AI and things like that. Which you have a drone that can be controlled by a human, wherever the case may be. But that's how these things are being fought. And basically, you know, Iran is going to be using these drones, they say, in the war to come with America. America puts ground troops down there. So I said it's a snare too, because in the scriptures said that because America is not used to fighting that type of fight. If you look at the war with Russia and Ukraine, that's all they have been using. Like, yeah, you have your missiles, right? But you also have the drones. If it's going to be a ground war, Iran is definitely going to use drones because Iran sent drones to Russia to use them. Russia been using them, and then Russia, in the midst of battle, tweaked the drones a little bit and made them better and sent some back to Iran to have them look at it and things like that. And America is not used to this type of war. And in this video here, I'm gonna play like the last 5 minutes or whatever. They go into detail how America is not ready for this, and it's a snare, right? This is the snare that the Most High Yahweh, Bashmi Awashad, has laid for Babylon, right? And the whole thing, was a snare. You look at the brothers' videos, you look at my videos. I talked about even the layout, of the land, how where America is at and where Iran is at and the straits are at and where the oil comes from, and the different resources and land and things like that. It was a snare from the beginning, to have America lose this battle. How the Most High, set up NATO and EU in the area that they're at, and now they're turning on America in these last days. So it is all a huge snare. The whole plan from point A to point Z, right, was a snare for this devil. But this war is a snare too, because this isn't a war that they can fight and win. And ultimately, it was never a war that they would have done. The scripture said they were dragged into this war, Jeremiah 50 and 45, right? And they're not prepared for it. So anyway, I'm gonna get these two scriptures I got right here. I'm gonna just play that video. You can check the video out, right? But the scriptures tell you plainly that a Babylon will be destroyed ultimately, right? And this is that snare, right? This is the beginning stages of World War III. People are saying now we're in World War III, right? And things like that. It's definitely here. People are saying people are getting dragged into this thing. All right. So the prophecy is speaking and moving. Right. This is Jeremiah 50 and 22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Right. And Esau even was blessed with the sword, right, which are the Edomites, right? And here in Babylon, America, right, these Edomites, which is the so-called white man, they run the world. America has military bases all around the world. So they're the hammer of the whole earth, right? Isaiah 10 tells you that they're a tool in the hand of Yahweh Bashmi Shah, right? And it basically set America up to be what they are now just for the great fall that's about to happen. All right. And these different nations, going to Joel chapter 3, verse 9, the weak saying that they are strong, uh, these nations are going to turn on the whore, and burn her with fire. It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Bashmawashah. Right, going into one perfect example, or just one example is the Space Force. Right, we know and understand that Space Force is for Yahweh Bashmi Shai, right? The chariots, Yahweh Shai when he returns. Right, they're thinking they're going to fight against the Lord. Even Job 9:24 says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, and he covers the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right, when Esau Edom, the so-called white man, took power, right, he changed the true judges of the earth, right, starting with Yahweh Bashmawashah, the Father and the Son, right, who are dark-skinned men. If you look at planet Earth, the whole Earth, everyone has a hue to them, some type of hue, right? And Esau Edom, the curse, it has no pigmentation because that was a curse put on Esau Edom. All right, but through slavery and mixing and things like that, most of the Earth has become a lighter, complexion. All right. So Jeremiah 50 and 24 says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh Bashmi. The Lord Yahweh Bashmi have opened his armory and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh Bashmi of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Now the armory that he has opened is Russia, right? And then many people join Russia pursuant to Ezekiel 38. Right? The scriptures say that he will bring Russia back and put hooks into thy jaws. Ezekiel 38:4, it says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. Russia was basically chill. Russia was chilling. But this whole situation with NATO steady increasing on the borders of Russia, right, to the point where Ukraine for Russia was the last straw. But with the Most High put the spirit into him to turn him back for the time that we're in now. All right, and that is the story. NATO encroaching on the borders of Russia, and Russia didn't want that to happen. Right, even Psalm 55:20 says he has broken his covenant, right, with those that be at peace with him. Russia was always at peace with America, and they said they wouldn't expand NATO, but that's something that they have broken. Right, so now Russia is turned back, and they have great weapons that no one can compete with here in these last days. It says Ezekiel 38:4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shield, all of them handling swords. Right, so Russia's going to come with many people, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them. All of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomor, Northwards and all his bands, and many people with thee. So you got Iran, Africa, you got Germany, right, Turkey, and many people join, with Russia, and we see that the 10 horns, NATO and the EU, right, will join with Russia also in these last days. It says, come against her, Jeremiah 50:26, come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon to declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh Bashmawashah, our power, the vengeance of his temple. Right, this is the controversy of Zion, for the things committed and did to the Israelites, right, which are the Negroes, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, those of us that were in slavery. Now we do have us sprinkled around amongst the nations, looking like the different nations, right? So you can have somebody that's, like I said earlier, with no pigmentation, and is an Israelite. Okay, just to give you an example. It says, call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow, right? These archers, these bows are talking about the missiles, the nuclear missiles, right? This is what's going to destroy Babylon, burn her desolate, as it says in Joel chapter 2, right? Around the fourth verse or whatever, where it says, Joel 2:3, fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. So it's talking about the missiles, right? Once these missiles are shot, everything will be destroyed where it hits. In Russia, the armory of Yahweh Bashar Shai in these last days has missiles that can escape all defensive systems. All right. Jeremiah 15:29, call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow, camp against it round about, let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she have done, do unto her, for she have been proud against the Lord Yahweh Bashar, against the Holy One of Israel. Right, and the men that will escape, the men and their families, right, the elect and the multitude will be, the elect. Right, pursuant to Matthew 24:30, Yahweh will return and deliver his elect. Matthew 24 and 29, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken, right, from the nuclear missiles, right? Dark, things like that, the smoke going up, the stars are talking about nuclear missiles, right? And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Now these are the chariots. He's come with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds from one end of heaven to the other. See, so we are going to be the individuals. When I say we, Lord willing, I'm of that number. We call ourselves the hopeful elect, right? Yahweh Shai is going to beam up his elect and gather us, in his gigantic fathership to deliver us from the destruction that's about to come to America, also to Israel and wherever else the missiles may hit, right? You also have like earthquakes and different things happening on the earth, as it says that the heavens shall be shaken. It says Jeremiah 50:30, it says, therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, said the Lord Yahweh Bashar Shai. Right? If you're going into this World War III, is what it is. If you're going over to the Middle East, you're not coming back. All right? You're not coming back, because at the end of this war, Yahweh Shai comes and destroys all the armies over there. All right? You get Second Ezra chapter 13. Let me see. But this is Isaiah 34:1. It says, come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord Yahweh Bashar upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. There's, so this is talking about that Levant region, right? The Fertile Crescent, the Middle East over there, in Israel, right? Where it talks about the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, right? Joel 3:2, it says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, right? And which is Yahweh's judgment, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So they're parting the land now. Who's doing that? The Amalekites, right? Which are Edomites over there, the small hatters, the fake Israeli, people. They're parting the land, amongst themselves. They're fighting over right now, right? Different people have different parts of our land. All right. They took it from the true Israelites, which is the so-called Negro, Native American and Latino, Yeah. So like I was saying, if you go into that war, you will be destroyed, So yeah. Jeremiah 50:31, behold, great death, great slaughter is about to take place. All right. And it starts now from day one. This day one was, I think they're on like day 7, or whatever the case may be. I think the first day and day 1 and day 2, they lost, America at least lost like 600 plus. They were saying it ain't gonna stop. Jeremiah 50:31, behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashar of hosts, for thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Right, because this devil did come back. He did rebuild. Was it Malachi? Was it 4? So I get 1. Um, Malachi 1, and I get from 4, it says, whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. That's why you have the revised Roman Empire, right, which is America. Thus said the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel shall host, they shall build, but I will throw down. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel shall have indignation forever. So Esau Edom did rebuild, going back to the Renaissance period, right, during the 1400s, and what we have today here in America. And this is what the Most High Yahweh Bashmiel shall is coming to destroy, what Esau Edom has rebuilt. Jeremiah 15:32, and the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. The nuclear missiles, thus said the Lord Yahweh Bashmal shall oppose the children of Israel and the children of Judah will press together. All that took them captive held them fast, they refused to let them go. We ask these small hatters all the time, where is the northern tribes? And they have no answer. All right. Our answer is that we are the Israelites, the 12 tribes mentioned in the Bible, right? Benjamin, Judah, Levi being the southern tribe, and the northern tribe, Manasseh, Ephraim, Issachar, right? All of that. You have the darker, and then the lighter, the Puerto Ricans, and us. We are those people, right? That's all 12 tribes, okay? And we were oppressed together, right? These small hatters over there in our land can't say that. They don't even know. They don't know what tribe they're from. Just them. We ask them what tribe they're from. Levy. It says Jeremiah 50:34. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord Yahweh Bashmal shall post is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. Yeah, even the land is upset at this devil. Right? It's Isaiah 13:14 where it talks about the trees. 14 seems like this one I'm going into the meats also. It's precept to Jeremiah 50:51, what I'm reading now. This is Isaiah 14 and 4. It says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? The Lord Yahweh Bashmiel shall have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continuous growth, he that ruled the nation's anger is persecuted and none hindered. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon saying, since thou art laid down, no fellers come up against us. Right? So even the land is needing a rest from this devil. All right. Jeremiah 50:35, a sword is upon the Chaldeans, said the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon her horses, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her, and they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. And everyone in America pretty much is saying they don't want to fight this war, right? They don't want to fight against Iran. They don't want to fight for Israel. They just don't want to fight. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, right? Idols. They already saying one of the biggest idols, JC. Oh, this is a holy war to bring back JC. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Yeah, that's how mad they are, talking about this is a war to bring back JC. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there. Here in Babylon the Great, once this place is destroyed, it will never be inhabited again. It's just going to be destroyed and left desolate. And the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As Yahweh Bashim Yahushai overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. This is talking about Russia, right? Going into that Ezekiel 38, where it says Russia will be come against her with many people. And we can see that forming right now, even secret alliances, just like the scriptures say in Obadiah 1:7, you know, because you have a crisis now in the world that's only going to get worse as this war continues, that people are needing energy, right? And the only people that can supply that energy for these nations right now is Russia and China, all right, because the Strait of Hormuz is closed down, right? And people need that gap filled back to of how to get their energy. And the person that can supply that is Russia. He's saying he's only able to supply these things to reliable, people basically. So deals will be made. It says, uh, "Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. They shall hold the bow." Right. We were just talking about Babylon, right? So you know this is nations coming against Babylon. It says they shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses. Everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. Right, and we can already see like different things that has happened. Many attacks on Russia, on Russia's life. One thing that they said in this video with Scott Riddler was that Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin to discuss some type of peace or something. And while on the phone, CIA was trying to launch a drone attack on his house while he was inside or whatever to kill him. All right. So he's not showing no mercy basically. This Putin guy. Jeremiah 50:43 says, "The king of Babylon have heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble, anguish took hold of him, and pangs as a woman in travail." Yeah, there's many videos and statements coming out by Donald Trump that you can look for yourself. This man said he watched the Moscow parade with their troops. He said they look invincible. He said in a interview with Joe Rogan that what is it? Russia is a war machine. There's many statements, coming out from him about how basically, Russia is unstoppable. Okay. It says, "Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan and unto the habitation of the strong. I will make them suddenly run away, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that shall stand before me?" And ultimately, it's Yahweh Shai, right? Ultimately, Yahweh Shai comes at the end of this thing and destroys completely, all the armies, Babylon the Great, Israel. We know the missiles will be shot, but basically, Yahweh Shai will do that final, whatever is left type of situation, because he will come also with a chariot from the laser beams from the chariot, right? It says, "Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, that he have taken against Babylon and his purposes that he have proposed against the land of the Chaldeans." It says, "Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them." So now we see that this has happened. Everything that America has done leading up to this point has been because of these small hatters. The least of the flock is talking about those 1948ers over there in the land of Israel, right? Proclaiming to be the Israelites of the Bible, which they are not. They have dragged America into this war, and the whole world is seeing that. That's why you're having, Marine soldiers getting their arm broken, screaming to the top of their lungs that America does not want to fight for Israel, and that's because Israel has drugged America into this war. It says, "At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations." All right, and pretty much, that's all I got on that. I'll read this part right here. It says, Jeremiah 51:28, "Prepare against her the nations with the king of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion." Once again, the Medes is going to the Russians. It says, "And the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight, they have remained in their holds. Their might have failed, they became as women, they have burnt her dwelling places, her bars are broken." And if you look at the basis that America used to have in the Middle East that are no longer operational because of the ass whooping that they're currently still getting, probably right now as I speak, with missiles raining down on them. Well, they did say they were going to stop because I mean they destroyed everything, but we'll have to see. But America is basically getting the ass whooping, and they have to go into fight. They don't want to fight. The biggest example of that is when the reports came out that the soldiers on one of those aircraft carriers stopped up the ship, to try to prevent themselves from going to war. Even among the so-called 6 people that had died, they were saying that one of the ladies that died or whatever, she was, supposed to go home like in a few days or a week or so, but she ended up dying, right, because of this war, like day one, basically. It says one post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. All right, and that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burnt with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. That's exactly what's happening, and we're saying, basically these military bases over here around the world are a part of Babylon, right? This is, basically if you strike the military base, you strike America, basically. And Iran has struck all of these things. And now they're, talking about boots on the ground and things like that, which is going to, just increase the destruction coming to Babylon ultimately. All right, so I'm going to play this video, like 5 minutes, the last few of it. And this is just a snare. They're saying that this battle is impossible to fight because, this is something that they're not used to, right? America is used to bombing, right? And calling in airstrikes and things like that. But now with these drones, even the dude has a drone right there. America's not ready for that, basically. Another one back there.
Validate what you just said. If I used the tactics I did in 2007 when I was in that unit, I mean, we'd get wiped out, just like the Ukrainian side did in June 2023, because we'd have been using the same tactics. And same now tactic. It looks like that we've recognized that there's a change, but we've changed about this much when we needed to change about this much, and that worries me.
I was in Russia last fall, and talking to commander of a drone unit, and people need to understand, when I go to Russia, I defend America like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I am fighting tooth and nail to defend the United States. I don't badmouth. As an American citizen in the United States, I have a First Amendment right to say anything I want. And I have a duty and responsibility as a citizen to call out my government when they're doing things bad. But I don't criticize my government overseas. That's not my place. And so it's sometimes hard to have conversations because these guys are like pointing things out that it's hard to defend. But they were talking about the U.S. Army in Europe has a drone school now, and they published some videos. And there's a video of this soldier getting his drone. He's bragging about how he's going to take a hand grenade and he's going to put it under the drone. And now the drone's going to fly out over the target, and they're going to drop their grenade down, and they hit it. And they're like, yeah, we're masters. Guys do know that that's like the very first thing they did when they started using drones back in 2022, 2023, was the grenade drop. But today you don't get to drop grenades unless you have total control of the side, because you'll be shot down, you'll be jammed, or whatever. That tactic won't work. So we are literally adopting drone tactics and trying to learn drone tactics that won't work on the battlefield. If you look at some of the modern battlefields right now, go to Pokrovsk, where there was heavy fighting. The fields over Pokrovsk are covered with fiber optic lines, literally covered. It's like woven in. Think about it. Each one of those lines is a single drone, fiber optic, which means it can't be jammed. So they're flying at you with a fiber optic drone that can't be jammed. Once they lock in on you, unless you can shoot it down, you're going to get hit. And that field is covered with them going both ways. That tells you the reality of drone warfare today. We're not even close. Colonel, you know this, and I know this.
Right. So they went into this war, right? And they already asked for a ceasefire multiple times. Iran has said, basically, fuck you, right? They're running out of ammo. And now they're talking about they're going to try to put boots on the ground for something else that they're not ready for, regarding these drones. So it's a snare. It's a trap, right? And I mean, when I heard this, I literally started thinking about it because, You know, I watched some of those videos with the drones, and it's just like it's nothing you can do. You know, the drones is coming after you, is blowing up your vehicle, whatever the case may be, and it's nothing you can do. It's a small little thing that you can't really shoot. Let me hurry up and finish this for these guys.
We try and get a Lance Corporal to be issued a $2,500 piece of equipment, and he's like, I don't want this. I don't want to sign for this. And then tell them that you have permission to crash it, and they're going to be like, no, my paycheck isn't good enough. I can't. In order to train on modern drone warfare, you have to have a budget that allows you to buy dozens of expensive drones so that your Marines and soldiers can crash them, can train to do it right. And there could be no consequence for crashing them. If they take it off and it crashes into a tree, you can't say, "That's a $2,000 piece of equipment, soldier." No, because in drone warfare, you're going to be literally flying these things nonstop, and they're expendable rounds of ammunition. We had people get in trouble in Afghanistan. There it is. There's the fiber in Afghanistan for firing javelins at the wrong target, because javelins are expensive and you need to pick drones. You just fire them, you fly them, you crash them, you do whatever. They're expendable rounds of ammunition, and they are literally using tens of thousands of them a day on a particular part of the battlefield. It's a whole new way of war that we in the West have no understanding of.
100% agree with you, and I fear that one day we'll find out the hard way.
Right. So these are, basically military analysts. They were, military men. They were in the field. They understand these things, and they're saying again, and they was already saying that America's not, it's basically, it's a hard target, right? Iran is a hard target to defeat, and that was before the drones.
But listen, we'll leave it there for now.
Just so you know, Colonel, I'm sorry to interrupt. Today, the report came out. The Iranians are starting to use FPV drones. This is the very drone weapon
Right. So when I heard that, I remember when the guy was like, "Are you ready to fight America in the ground invasion?" And he was like, "Yes, come, we're ready. What's up?" And I was like, "Bro, it's a trap. It's a snare. They got like a billion drones just waiting, to just launch." If you ever seen the videos of the drones and how it's going between Russia and Ukraine, you can imagine what's about to happen to America. Especially with these two men here saying that America isn't ready. They don't have, the knowledge of that type of war there. Okay.
The Iranians are starting to employ FPV drones against, American targets and against, for instance, the Kurds. The Kurds, now that the CIA is trying to get them to advance, the Iranians are using FPV drones to interdict them up to 15, 20 kilometers into their rear. So if we ever did send ground troops into Iran, the Iranians have mastered drone warfare. We have.
Okay, and that's actually what else.
Yep, there you go. You can check the video out. It says Iranians have mastered drone warfare, right? And they have not. So that it's a losing battle. And Lord willing, you're edified from the lesson. Shalom to the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.